All right, let's set the scene. The 11th of August and the mood around Celtic Park is, well, let's call it quietly confident. Yesterday's trip up to Pittodrie ended in exactly the kind of result Brendan Rodgers would have wanted. Controlled, comfortable win over Aberdeen that never really looked in doubt. It wasn't one of those all guns blazing Celtic performances where you're left gasping at the number of chances created, but it was solid, efficient, and importantly professional. The sort of victory that says, we're here, we're getting the job done. Even if all the pieces in the attacking third aren't quite clicking into place yet. If I had to pick one word for it, it would be control. From the first whistle to the last, there was no real moment where you thought Aberdeen were about to wrestle the points away. The back line was secure, the midfield was neat, and while the forward line wasn't exactly electric, it was enough to see Celtic take all 3 points without fuss. And that's worth praising, especially given the cloud of transfer chatter swirling around the club right now. The manager can't sit in front of a microphone without being asked about new signings, potential departures, and deadlines. Yet on the pitch, the focus has stayed sharp. Rodgers himself admitted after the game that Celtic still have another couple of gears to go, particularly in attack. The likes of Lewis Palmer and Kieran Tierney are still betting themselves in. Some combinations aren't quite firing yet, and players like Dyson Maeda, who hasn't really hit top stride so far, are still finding their rhythm. But 2 games played, 2 wins, and 2 clean sheets is exactly the sort of platform you want to build from in the opening weeks of the season. Now there's a short break before the next league fixture, and that gives everyone a moment to breathe. Though in the world of Celtic, breathing space usually just means more time for speculation and headlines. One of the more intriguing moments from Rodgers' post-match chat came when he revealed that Kieran Tierney had actually been sick, properly ill, at halftime. Apparently, there was even some doubt over whether he'd come back out for the second half. But Tierney, being Tierney, decided to give it a go before being subbed off with about 25 minutes left. That came down to a mix of cramp and the after effects of whatever bug he's picked up, but the hope is that he'll recover in time for Friday night's match against Falkirk. The manager was also pressed about Adam Ida, and here's where things got a bit more telling. Ida didn't have the best afternoon. The ball seemed to bounce off him a couple of times, his touches lacked conviction, and there's the sense he's short on confidence. Rodgers was quick to defend him, pointing out that last season, Ida's best form came when he had serious competition for that number 9 role. Back then, it was Kyogo keeping him on his toes. Right now, Rodgers doesn't seem to see Yamada as that same level of rival for the spot, which is revealing in itself. That suggests the club still wants to bring in a first-choice striker. Not necessarily a household superstar, but someone capable of leading the line in the biggest games. If that signing does arrive, it could change the dynamic up front. Ada would have to raise his game, Yamada might become the third choice option, and younger forwards like Johnny Kenny and Rocco Vada could be heading out on loan to get minutes elsewhere. That's the theory. Of course this is Celtic, and there's no guarantee those transfer plans materialize. Still, the intent from Rodgers is clear. More competition up front will lift everyone's performance. Speaking of Yamada, there's something a bit raw but promising about him. When he came on against Aberdeen, he showed a willingness to run in. Behind to try little link-up flicks and to stretch the defense. Not everything came off, but there's the makings of a player who could develop into a handy option. It wouldn't surprise me if Rodgers gives him a proper run-out against Falkirk in the Cup. Though with the team only playing once a weekend, the moment there's no pressure to rotate heavily unless it's for a tactical reason. Now we can't talk about this match without acknowledging the elephant in the room: transfers. The subject is haunting Rodgers like a persistent fly in a summer kitchen. Every broadcaster, every paper, every fan podcast wants an update. And while the manager has kept his cool, you get the feeling he's getting tired of repeating himself. Once again, he distanced himself from the club's recruitment process, repeating that he doesn't actually know exactly who might be coming in. For a fan base desperate for news, that's not the most reassuring stance. He did, however, say he's happy with the defensive unit and the midfield. In his view, those areas are strong enough for the challenges ahead in both the league and in Europe. But he didn't deny that more attacking firepower is needed. A right winger, a striker, maybe another option on the left. In other words, the work isn't done. And with the deadline to register the Champions League playoff squad looming this Thursday, there's an extra layer of urgency, or at least there should be. That said, the deadline isn't as final as it sounds. Celtic do need to submit. a 25-man list by Thursday, but UEFA's rules allow for 2 wildcard additions right up until the night before the first leg. In theory, that means the club could sign someone as late as next Tuesday and still have them eligible. In practice, with nothing sounding imminent, it's more likely the squad we've got now is the squad that will face whoever we draw. And that's where the focus shifts to what's already here. The aim has to be to keep winning to secure Champions League group stage football, to take points off Rangers, and to set a tone for the season. Do that, and the pressure around transfers at least eases a little. Right now, Celtic are ticking along. Maybe not hitting the heights yet, but improving game by game. Sunday's win was better than the opening day performance against St. Mirren. If that trend continues into the Falkirk game, there's reason to be optimistic. Rodgers also gave a slightly spiky answer in the press room after the game. He addressed what he called a narrative that his Celtic teams don't play attractive football, and went as far as saying there are a number of people who really don't like me within the club's wider circles. That's a bold statement, and only he knows exactly who he's referring to. Whether it's media voices, former players, or people inside the organization, he's clearly aware of it and, by the sounds of it, motivated by it. Among the fan reactions, there was plenty of praise for Tierney and Palmer. One supporter went as far as calling Matt O'Reilly's goal a contender for goal of the season already. Others highlighted Callum McGregor's influence, saying he was the heartbeat of the performance. Cameron Carter-Vickers also came in for praise. Perhaps unsurprising given his consistency, but it's easy to take players like him and McGregor for granted when they quietly deliver every single week. Rewatching the game, you could see just how much Alistair Johnston contributed down the right-hand side in the first half, snapping into challenges, recovering possession, and linking well going forward. In midfield, Palmer looked lively, and Rio, Hatate's finish for his goal was pure quality. That curling strike from the edge of the box will be replayed a few times in highlight reels this week. The area still lagging is the final third overall, with Maida below his best and Ida lacking confidence. Solve that, and the whole attack starts to look different. Elsewhere in the Scottish Premiership, the weekend brought a few interesting results. Livingston putting 3 past Falkirk Rangers, being held by Dundee, and Hearts edging out Dundee United in a 5-goal game. Early days, or not, Celtic and Hearts are the only sides with a perfect record after 2 matches sitting on 6 points. That already puts Celtic 4 points clear of Rangers, which isn't insignificant even at this stage. The league table also shows that 2/3 of the division have yet to win a game, which speaks to how tight a lot of the fixtures have been. So here we are, a strong start on paper, some teething issues, an attack transfer noise in the background, and a Champions League playoff on the horizon. Tomorrow night, we'll find out whether it's Slovan Bratislava or Kai who will be standing in the way of group stage qualification. By the end of the week, we'll know exactly which players are in the squad for that tie. And before all that, there's the small matter of Friday night under the lights at Celtic Park against Falkirk in the Cup. A rare slot in the schedule and a chance to rotate a few faces if Rodgers feels like it. That's the current lay of the land. Celtic are getting the results. The mood in the stands is steady, and if the recruitment team can deliver those extra attacking options Rodgers wants, this season could really start to gather momentum. Until then, it's about doing the basics, right? Keeping the wins coming and making sure the early season promise doesn't fade. If part 1 was about the match itself and the immediate fallout, then part 2 is where we look at the bigger picture. What this win over Aberdeen really says about where Celtic stand, what's still missing, and how the next few weeks could shape the whole season. Because while Sunday's performance at Pittodrie ticked a lot of boxes, there's no denying that it also underlines some of the same talking points we've been circling since pre-season. First and foremost, this team looks like it's built on a rock-solid spine. Joe Hart, for all the speculation about his future earlier in the summer, remains steady between the posts. In front of him, Carter-Vickers looked like he'd never been away. His positioning, his ability to win his duels, and his calmness when Aberdeen tried to press, it all made a difference. And when you combine that with Johnston's energy on the right, Tierney's drive on the left, and the steady presence of Liam Scales in the middle, you got a backline that doesn't just defend well, but gives the rest of the team confidence to push higher up the pitch. Midfield too has a lot going for it. Callum McGregor was once again the conductor of everything Celtic did with the ball. He was always available, always thinking 2 passes ahead, and the way he drops into little pockets to help recycle possession is something that might go unnoticed by casual viewers, but is absolutely priceless in a team looking to control games. Beside him, Matt O'Reilly had one of those afternoons where his technical ability shone. That goal wasn't just a clean strike, it was the product of awareness, movement, and timing. Reo Hatate brought that spark of creativity and was rewarded with a sublime finish of his own. If the forwards can match the midfield's output, the gap between good Celtic and great Celtic will close very quickly. But here's the thing. The final third is still where the conversation keeps looping back. Against Aberdeen, there were moments when the ball was worked into promising areas only for the move to fizzle out because the striker's touch let them down or the wide players weren't quite on the same wavelength. Daisen Maeda is working tirelessly, as always, but right now he's missing the sharpness in his decision-making that made him such a threat last season. Adam Ida's struggles are more about confidence. You can see he's trying to do the right things, but the ball just isn't sticking for him. Without that, the attacks lose their rhythm, and Aberdeen were able to regroup more than once when they should have been under sustained pressure. This is exactly why Brendan Rodgers' comments about wanting another striker feel so important. It's not just about depth, it's about setting the standard. When Kyogo was here, Eden knew he had to match a proven goal scorer in training every single day just to have a chance of starting. That edge brings the best out of players. Without it, you risk slipping into comfort zones. And while Shun Yamada has shown flashes of potential, Rodgers clearly doesn't see him as that head-to-head challenger for the number 9 role yet. Bringing in someone who can push Ida and maybe even take the shirt off him could be the catalyst for a sharper, more ruthless Celtic attack. Of course, it's not just up front where recruitment could make a difference. Rodgers has already mentioned the need for more in the wide areas. Palmer has settled well, a Negron has been lively, but having a natural right winger with pace and end product could transform the way Celtic stretch defenses. There's also the matter of left back. Tierney's return has been a boost, but with his injury record, and now this illness, you can't rely on him for 60 games a season. Another option that wouldn't go amiss, especially with the demands of European football looming. Speaking of Europe, the Champions League playoff. Tie is now just around the corner. This is where the stakes jump up. It's not just about the money, though the financial windfall is huge. It's about the platform it gives Celtic to test themselves against the best. The draw between Slovan Bratislava and Kai will be settled tomorrow night, and that result will shape the mood going into next week. If Celtic get through the season, opens up in a way that can energize the whole squad. If they don't, the pressure on the domestic campaign ramps up instantly. What makes it trickier is the timing. The UEFA registration deadline for the playoff squad is this Thursday, but as we mentioned before, the wildcard rule means 2 players could be added right up until the day before the first leg. Still, with nothing concrete happening on the transfer front, it's fair to assume Rodgers will be preparing with the squad he's got. That's not necessarily a disaster. The team is organized, the defense is solid, the midfield can dominate most games. But against higher caliber opponents, those little lapses in the final third will be punished. And that brings us to Rodgers himself. His remark about there being a number of people who really don't like me around Celtic was as striking as anything he said about the match. It's not often you hear a manager address that kind of undercurrent so openly. Whether he's referring to figures in the media, voices in the fan base, or even people within the club's own structure, it shows he's aware of the scrutiny and maybe even using it as fuel. It also adds an extra layer to the whole transfer discussion. If he's distancing himself from recruitment, and if there are politics at play behind the scenes, then the delay in signings might not be purely down to scouting or budget. For now, though, Rodgers has to work with what he has. And what he has is a squad that's winning games, keeping clean sheets, and quietly pulling away from Rangers in the early league table. Hearts are the only other team with a perfect record, and Celtic already have a 4-point cushion over their main rivals. It's early days, but momentum matters. In seasons past, we've seen how even a small gap in August can change the psychology of a title race. One of the understated positives from the Aberdeen match was the number of players hitting at least a 7 out of 10 performance level. Carter Vickers and McGregor are givens, but Tierney, illness aside, looked like he'd never been away. Johnston was relentless down the right. Palmer and Negron looked dangerous whenever they had. Space. Hatate's strike was pure class. Even Yamada, in his short cameo, showed enough movement and intent to give the fans something to think about. If that base level can be maintained, it becomes much easier to layer on the attacking improvements Rodgers wants. The next step is to make sure the cup game against Falkirk doesn't become a banana skin. Friday night at Celtic Park should be a chance to control the game management for key players and maybe give opportunities to those on the fringes. It's also a psychological warm-up for the playoff, another home fixture under the lights, where the crowd will expect a result and a performance. If Celtic can come through that with confidence high, they'll be in a stronger position heading into Europe. Beyond that, there's the first trip to Ibrox of the season looming on the horizon. Even in August, that fixture can set the tone for months to come. A win that would not only stretch the gap over Rangers, but send a message that Celtic mean business regardless of any noise about transfers. The flip side, of course, is that a poor result would give Rangers and their fans a boost and would inevitably turn the spotlight back onto the recruitment team and the board. So here's the reality. Celtic are in a good place in terms of results, a solid place in terms of structure, but still short in terms of depth and attacking quality. The defense is doing its job. The midfield is pulling strings. The attack is doing enough to win domestic matches, but hasn't yet shown it can blow teams away. And in Europe, that difference will matter. The next 3 weeks will be telling. By the end of them, we'll know if Celtic are in the Champions League group stage. We'll have played the first derby of the season. We'll have seen if the club followed through on Rodgers' call for reinforcements. And we'll have a clearer sense of whether this steady start is the foundation for a dominant campaign or the beginning of a season where every point is hard-earned. For now, though, it's about building on Sunday's win, making sure the team keeps improving, and trusting that when the window closes, Celtic have given themselves the best possible chance to hit top gear when it matters most. The foundations are there. The question is whether the finishing touches on and off the pitch will arrive in time to make this a season to remember. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. It hasn't been confirmed by the club or the player, but the streets of Glasgow are awash with chatter that Luka Modric, the very Croatian maestro that's graced Champions League finals and World Cups, is set to pull on the famous green and white hoops of Celtic. Word is drifting in from sources close to both the parkhead corridors and Madrid cafes, suggesting that a shock move has been brewing quietly for months, hidden away from the prying eyes of the press. It's said that Modric himself has been spotted in the West End of Glasgow, enjoying a quiet dram in a wee bar, perhaps testing the waters of his potential new home. The idea of such a seasoned midfield general stepping into the Scottish Premiership has left pundits whispering about how it could reshape the league entirely. Some say it's a romantic final chapter to a glittering career. Others mutter, it's just a far-fetched fantasy dreamed up by over-eager fans on social media. But as every Celtic supporter knows, sometimes dreams do find their way onto the pitch of paradise, and the thought of Modric weaving his magic on the hallowed turf is enough to set pulses racing. Rumour merchants have been in overdrive since the first murmurs of Modric's possible arrival began. The story supposedly started when an ex-Celtic player, now working as a pundit in Spain, let slip during a late-night football chat show that the Croatian had a soft spot for Celtic, dating back to his youth. Whether that claim is rooted in truth or fueled by whiskey is still a matter of debate, but it's been enough to ignite imaginations. Supporters across Glasgow and beyond are debating where exactly the veteran would fit in Ange Postecoglou's ever-evolving tactical plan, with some picturing him dictating play alongside Callum McGregor, others imagining him as a free-spirited playmaker roaming wherever he pleases. The transfer fee, of course, is a sticking point in these pub debates, though whispers suggest Modric could be willing to take a dramatic wage cut simply for the chance to experience European nights under the floodlights at Celtic Park. That, detail if true, would be the kind of gesture that instantly wins the hearts of the Hoops faithful. Until official word comes, every sighting, every hint, every sly grin from club insiders will be dissected by fans desperate for confirmation. Celtic Park has seen its fair share of superstars pass through, but this would be on another level. entirely. The last time such an unexpected coup happened, Henrik Larsson was the man lighting up the pitch, and folks still talk about those days with a nostalgic glow. Modric's name carries a weight few others can match, a Ballon d'Or. Winner, a leader, a master of the game's tempo. Bringing him to the East End would not just be about footballing quality. It would be a statement to the rest of Europe that Celtic can still lure elite players, even from the bright lights of La Liga. The Scottish Premiership has long been seen as a stepping stone or a late career stopgap for many foreign stars, but this would be different. It would be a deliberate choice, an embrace of the challenge, and a love affair with a club known for its fierce supporters and unique atmosphere. Critics might scoff, claiming it's just a PR stunt or a marketing gamble. But those who ken the spirit of Celtic understand it could be something far more profound. A marriage of passion, tradition, and world-class talent. Even in the bustling streets around the Barras market, traders are joining in the speculation, joking about printing MODRIĆ 10 scarves before Christmas. Social media has been awash with photoshopped images of the Croatian maestro in a Celtic strip, often accompanied by tongue-in-cheek captions like "From Madrid to Maryhill." The banter is flying, but beneath it lies a genuine curiosity about how the diminutive playmaker would cope with the physicality of the Scottish game. Some insist his quick thinking and unrivaled vision would see him glide past clumsy challenges, while others warn that the winter winds whipping through Dingwall are a far cry from the Mediterranean sun. Yet there's something about the idea. MODRIĆ braving a cold Tuesday night in Paisley that captures the Scottish imagination. The romance of the improbable. No matter how wild the rumor seems, Celtic fans are clinging to the hope that the story might just have legs. Football has a way of making the impossible possible, and stranger things have happened on these shores. After all, this is the club that once conquered Europe, and those dreams have never truly faded. Until there's a formal announcement, if it ever comes, this tale will remain in that hazy space between fantasy and possibility. But there's no denying the ripple effect it's already had. Rival fans are grumbling about ridiculous hype, while Celtic supporters are already planning welcome banners and imagining the roar that would greet Modric's first touch in front of the Jungle Boys. Journalists are circling, desperate for a quote, a slip, anything that could confirm or deny the whispers. In the meantime, the legend grows with each passing day, turning a mere rumor into the stuff of folklore before a ball has even been kicked. It's the kind of story that embodies the very soul of football in Scotland. Part truth, part myth, and entirely fueled by the collective heartbeat of the fans. Should Modric ever actually walk out of the tunnel at Celtic Park in the green and white, the eruption of noise might just register on the Richter scale. And if it turns out to be nothing more than a beautiful rumor, well, that's just the way of it here. The game is as much about the dreaming as it is about the doing. Hello fan! Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.